Hello everyone, welcome to Royal Black and Elite. Today's lecture we will be discussing the Empress of Blues. Her name was Bessie Smith and she was one of the most preeminent singers of her day. In fact, she was really one of the highest paid singers of her day. But her career ended tragically, so I'm very honored to be able to do this lecture about her. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you all so much. Hi Royalers, welcome, and if this is your first time, hello and welcome. Now, Bessie's career really began out of pretty much sheer poverty. She came from a large family and she actually lost her father, William, before she could even walk. She was born on April the 15th, 1892 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or at least that's what the census says. You know, birth certificates during the late 1800s, turn of the century, were kind of shaky. But we do know that he did pass while she was really young, and Betsy experienced another very hard tragedy on her when her mother passed away and her brother when she was only 9. So her older sister Viola had to take care of everyone, which was a problem because she was a teenager also. They were poor. And Betsy and her brother, his name was Andrew, they would go out in the streets and they would perform. Now, it was called busking during that time, Busking, busking. So they would busk on the corner, and the corner they would mostly do it on in Tennessee was the 13th and Elm. And this was like the heart of the Black community. Now, in 1904, she experienced a different type of loss. Her oldest brother, his name was Clarence, he took a job singing with a traveling troupe, and he didn't tell her. The reason he said was because if she knew, he would try to run away with her, so he didn't tell her, and he left. But in 1912, 8 years later, he came back, and this time he came to get her. He gave her an audition, or he kind of set up an audition, and she made it into the troupe. Now, she didn't make it for singing, but she made it for dancing. Now, whose troupe was it? It was the one and only Ma Rainey. Now, Ma Rainey was, if Bessie was the Empress, Ma was called the mother of the blues. So you know she wasn't going to be singing for Ma. She had to dance. And so that's what she did. Now, as she danced, she did good. She moved up into the chorus. But Betsy really wanted to sing and sing by herself. So she started out on her own career and her own track. And in 1913, that is when she began. By the 1920s, she was booked across the South and the East Coast. And in 1923, she was signed to Columbia Records. And she actually had some hits. The first one was called The Downhearted Blues. She became the highest paid entertainer at the time, and she was making about $2,000 a week, which would be about $35,000 a week now. She traveled in her own railroad car. It was a 72-foot long railroad car. So she had her own money. She had her own travel. And this is also the year that she married Jack McGee. Now, he was a security guard. But that marriage, it didn't really work out. You see, Betsy liked to play in both fields. And so she cheated profusely on him and he cheated on her. So the relationship was toxic from the beginning and she finally left him at the end, but they never did divorce. Her music had a message of freedom and especially sexually, and she lived it out. So that was the issue, and they broke up. And that was really also the issue with Du Bois. He rejected Betsy when she tried out for Black Swan Records, which was one of the first black record labels in history. And he said she was too rough, and he didn't want her to be a part of their record label. But she really grew big, and they were shocked that she grew so big. So there was a lot of gruff women out there. They just didn't know it. So no matter what, in 1925, she recorded a song called Cake Walking Babies. And this was her first electronic track. And she moved on to Broadway and even film. In 1933, she even recorded with Billie Holiday. They recorded like a double side, and there were other artists on there. And in there, she switched to swing music. So she moved from blues to swing. She could pretty much do anything. And she actually secured the bag because she was able to get a little bit. It was called a non-royalty, but she did get paid $37.50 for every play. But her money was kind of going down at that time, and she was working at a cafe, and she was on a trip with her boyfriend at the time. So she had already broke up with her husband, but she was in a relationship with another man. And on this day, they were involved in a horrific car accident. It was September 26, 1937, and she was critically injured. It was on the corner of Route 61. It was the corner of Clarksdale, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee. So it was like on one of those rural roads. Now, the man she was going with was Richard Morgan, and he misjudged. There was this truck, and it was moving slow, and he tried to get around it, and he misjudged the speed, and he ran into the side of it. The side, though, he ran on was Betsy's side, and Betsy's arm was hanging out the window, and the brunt of the whole entire accident hit her. Now, she was thrown from the car, and a doctor who came to the scene initially, he said that she was laying on the ground, and she had clearly suffered a life-threatening injury. Her arm was gone from the elbow down. So this great singer who had overcome so much, thousands of people attended her funeral, but her husband, he would not pay for a headstone for her. So her funeral was held on October the 4th, 1937. But not till many years later, 33 years later, did a headstone actually get put on her grave. That's so just sad, just petty. Janis Joplin paid for it. She was a real big rock star in that day, and a lady named Juanita Green also paid for it. She was a former housekeeper to Betsy, so they did put that on her grave. In 1973, she was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and in 1989, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1994, she was even put on a postage stamp. So Betsy had a career that was worthy to be recognized. I wanted to bring her to light to you. If you never heard of her, have you ever heard of her? Betsy was really the forerunner to, again, that rough, gruff singing. And really, she mixed a lot of women's lib with her singing. And she lived it out as well. So put your likes down below. Please put your comments as well. Hype the video. Let people know about Miss Bessie Smith. And also to know, she did unfortunately passed when she was really before her time. I mean, she was really in her time. She could have been really big. And this is the only way that their histories remain alive. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Now, my resources were Chris Albertson's Bessie, Empress of Blues, James Hink's 500 Songs That Shaped Rock, and Rolling Stone's The 200 Greatest Singers of All Time. So I want to thank you all for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite.